Hello and welcome to today's presentation of the paper Rate Assignment in 360-degree video tiled streaming using random forest regression. The paper was created at the Fraunhofer Heinrich-Hertz-Institut in Berlin, and my name is Kai Bitterschulte. Streaming of high-resolution 360-degree video is typically done in a viewport-dependent fashion, such as in the tile-based viewport-dependent profile of MPEG OMAF, wherein clients continuously adapt their tile selection according to the user viewport. From the perspective of a streaming service operator, tile rate assignment is crucial to ensure that the given target bitrate is obeyed while quality distribution among tiles leads to a favorable user experience. This paper addresses rate assignment in a distributed tile encoding system for such multi-resolution tile streaming services based on the emerging versatile video coding standard. A model for rate assignment is derived based on random forest regression using spatial temporal activity and encodings of a learning dataset. Streaming of high-resolution 360-degree video has recently gained much attention from industry and academia, as evident from releases of the new video equipment and development of related standards. The fundamental problem in distribution and playout of 360-degree video is that the resolution requirement easily reaches multiple times of what is common in traditional video applications. Viewport-dependent tile-based streaming has proven to be suitable to mitigate this issue by dividing the omnidirectional video plane into spatial segments, saying tiles, and providing only the portions that are in the current user viewport at high resolution, while the remaining tiles are transmitted at lower quality and resolution to avoid sacrificing decoder resources for content that is mostly not presented to the user. The encoding of content for such services has to be carried out in a deliberate fashion. Typically, the video content is divided upfront and coordinated encoders process each portion individually in parallel for the sake of serviceability, while ensuring the chosen encoder parameters match to a degree that allows low complexity merging of tiles. Motion-constrained tile sets, MCTS, that are independently coded through encoder-side restriction are the appropriate structure for such independent spatial portions of a video in HEVC. The next generation codec, known as Versatile Video Codec, VVC, which is currently under development by the Joint Video Expert Team, JVET, is envisioned to significantly reduce workload when creating and merging the separate portions of 360-degree videos by introducing several new concepts such as spatial boundary treatment or independent regions and an addressing scheme based on so-called subpictures within encoded picture. Apart from the still existing requirements on coordinating encoders in such a scenario, for example with respect to the reference structure, proper bitrate assignment is crucial for bitrate adaptation in such applications are an active area of research. Of particular interest is to ensure that the given target bitrate is obeyed while bitrate distribution among tiles is such that the resulting quality distribution among tiles leads to a favorable user experience, saying uniform quality of tiles is the desired outcome of such bitrate assignment. This paper builds on our prior work in this area and introduces a new model for rate assignment in a distributed tile encoding system for such multi-resolution tile streaming services based on the new emerging video coding standard VVC. Here you can see a demo of the HTML5 JavaScript implementation of MPEG OMAF viewport-dependent video profile on HEVC tiles by Dmitry Podborsky, who shows also a demo on volumetric video on this conference. On our work in this presentation, we have progressed by utilizing more sophisticated features describing the spatial temporal activity of the video data for model training, and secondly, by using a better converging regression model, namely random forest regression, with cross-validation as detailed in the following part. First, about basic video activity metrics. In order to determine the complexity of video data for modeling the encoding characteristics, and hence a bitrate allocation, metrics such as the spatial perceptual information or spatial activity SA and the temporal perceptual information or temporal activity TA, as defined in the previous paper, are used as an objective to measure that can be collected easily. Earlier related works in the present field used the spatial temporal complexity or activity metrics SA and TA according to the following equations, instead of using the max values as in the previous paper. So as you can see in figure 1, it gives measures of SA and TA of the 360-degree video sequence set used for the experiment in this paper, which among proprietary content also includes the JFET Commons Test Conditions class S1 and further sequences from SCTU, Shanghai University. It can be seen that the sequences cover a wide complexity range of SA and TA in plane. Given that the sequences are intended to be encoded tilewise, it can likewise be seen in figure 1 that SA and TA of individual tiles of a given video sequence may themselves span across considerable value ranges, saying content complexity may vary immensely locally, strongly depending on the content characteristics. Hence, when bitrate is naively distributed among tiles on a uniform fashion, quality may vary considerably across the picture plane, which is undesirable. In our former work, we derived a nonlinear regression model for tile rate assignment based on the spatial temporal activity of 360-degree video training set and reported reduction in variance of the quality distribution among tiles of a video tile set. For this model, the spatial temporal activity of the video is measured through SA and TA, as discussed above, and a nonlinear regression model on trial encodings data of the video training set based on HEVC using content quantization parameters is used to generate the model. The model presented in this paper is based on further advanced complexity metrics and random forest regression model, as detailed in the following. I will first explain the advanced complexity metrics. In order to gather additional predictive features for the presented model, several spatial temporal measures of complexity were evaluated, namely the standard deviation of the vertical and horizontal first derivative, the entropy of the picture, and the Hausdorff dimension, wherein each is gathered using the luminance plane of the picture data to measure the spatial activity. In addition, the HEVC quality evaluation metric mean over time between two consecutive frames is evaluated as a temporal activity feature. Equivalent to the works aforementioned, all measures are averaged over time to characterize the video consisting of a sequence of pictures. The figure 2 shows the correlation matrix of the features and the measured bitrate. One can see especially the TA, so the temporal activity, and the HA, so the HEVC temporal activity metric, are correlated the highest among the other features with the bitrate. The Hausdorff dimension is the one with the lowest correlation. Furthermore, as expected, the horizontal and the vertical deviation, dx and dy, are highly correlated to each other. Concerning the training of the random forest modeling. The training setup for the regression model uses a whole sequence leave one out cross-validation based on the test sequence set. Therefore, in each of the n iterations, a single test sequence is removed from the training set until each sequence was left out, wherein n is the number of sequences. Instead of building the model based on the whole video sequences, as for instance done for building the nonlinear model in our previous work, the presented model is trained on a per picture basis. That means picture-wise pairs of trial encoding and activity feature measures are used in training processed individually. Hence, no averaging over time is necessary for the random forest model. As regression model, a random forest according to Breiman with hyperparameters is optimized to the result of the minimum cross-validated out-of-back error OOB was utilized. The random forest is trained using bootstrap aggregation, while each new tree is fitted a bootstrap sample from the training data. The OOB error is thus the average error of the bootstrap sample calculated on the trees that do not contain the bootstrap sample. The minimum number of samples required at the leaf node was set to 50, so the points at any depth will only be considered when more than that number of samples is left in the left and the right branch of the tree. The number of predictors was selected randomly for each decision split, set to 2. The parameters are empirically selected and confirmed by cross-validation on the test sequence set as described above. In order to prevent strongly correlated predictors, we use the correlation-based wrapper feature selection method to minimize the number of predictors. An iterative optimization scheme is carried out to derive the final set of the least correlated features for the random forest. Starting with the full set of the features, each iteration focused on a set of correlated features, e.g. in this case, starting with the first mentioned set of dx, dy, and sa. For this set, all subsets are iteratively tested. For each of the subsets, the cross-validated OOB arrow is calculated in a per iteration. Each feature subset with the OOB arrow impact is added to the final feature set. So in the end, you have the final feature set with the lowest OOB arrow. Coming to the evaluation of this work. The evaluation is based on a tiled streaming scenario in which the 360-degree video content is offered at a high and a low resolution. The streaming client can select among predefined combinations S of high and low resolution tiles, wherein each combination represents a unique viewing orientation in high resolution compared to the other combinations. For the experimental setup, all sequences are limited to a length of 300 frames and use the QPRED projection format. Each sequence is presented at a resolution of equivalent of 6K for high resolution and equivalent of 3K for low resolution. Converted to 30 FPS and 8 bits, the sequences are then divided into 24 tiles, saying 4 tiles for each of the 6 cube map faces, and individually coded by the VVC reference encoder VTM, using the random access configuration for the common test conditions. Each tile combination S, among which the client can choose, include 12 high resolution and 12 lower resolution tiles, resulting in an overall resolution of equivalent to 4K. For each of the resulting bitrate, as a sum of the high resolution and low resolution bitrate is calculated. The target bitrate for each sequence was set to the bitrate achieved in our test encodings for a given initial QP. As in the previous paper, a constant downsampling factor for approximating the relation between the bitrate of corresponding high and low resolution tiles is then estimated from the average across all sequences and tiles to be 2.46. In our previous work, QP variance was introduced as a metric to measure the characteristics of the distribution of image quality across the image plane, which is also applied in this work. Coming to the results in this paper, in figure 3 you can see the cross-validations average with the lowest measured UOB arrow, which was dy, HA, HD, and SI. Especially the hard PSI feature has the strongest influence of the prediction quality as depicted in figure 3. Figure 4, on the other hand, reports the normalized bitrate of tiles of an exemplary sequence according to the presented random forest model, the nonlinear regression model from the previous paper, a uniform rate, and a uniform quality distribution for illustration purposes. As apparent, the presented random forest model better matches the uniform quality distribution in terms of normalized bitrate compared to the uniform rate model and the previous nonlinear regression model. The main goal of the presented random forest model is to reduce the QP variance across the image plane and achieving a bitrate distribution similar to the bitrate distribution of the uniform quality model. Figure 5 presents the respective measurements of QP variance averaged across sequences and configurations as a result of the cross-validation. In this figure, it can be seen that the random forest model outperforms the uniform rate model as well as the nonlinear regression model in terms of QP variance over tiles at each sequences. Furthermore, an evaluation of the model costs is given in figure 6, which is the resulting mean QP across sequences and tiles reported. It becomes clear that the presented random forest model leads to a smaller deviation from the target bitrate, as expressed in mean QP, from the uniform quality model than the nonlinear regression model presented in the previous paper. In summary, the random forest model thus achieves a more even quality distribution as well as a bitrate more closely matching to the target bitrate. Concluding, the proposed model reduces the variance of quality distribution compared to prior state-of-the-art models. We encountered that the proposed model works for a larger target bitrate range than used in training. Thank you for your attention and goodbye.